Hello, hello. Welcome to Tech Ascent, the podcast where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Clingain. I'm also the founder of Ascension, the primary business development partner within tech. Today, we're joined by a great guest, joined by Michael Heiberg, the founder and CEO of Ocean.io. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Oliver. Really great to be here. I'm looking forward to this. It took a little time to schedule it, but and thanks for your forthcoming in this. But no, really been looking forward to this
Yeah,
on
awesome.
this misty day in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. And yeah, there was a few
Mm,
moving parts, but I'm glad we could
mm,
finally make it happen. I
uh,
know the
mm,
audience is going to appreciate the
uh,
conversation as well, but
mm.
we can kick it off. Would you mind just telling me, the audience, a little bit about yourself and what you guys do at Ocean.io?
Yeah, I'm the founder of Ocean.io, or founded it in 2017. The company prototyped a lot of these lookalike versions until 2019-20, and then we released our first basically natural language process model for it. We were the early ones. Where did I get the concept from? I grew up in sales, large account sales, and both SAP, Oracle, and supply chain and other things. And when you just closed the deal, what you wanted was similar to that one, and that whole similar concept. They actually had that in the B2C space. If you go to Facebook or Google, or any of those up in through the 2000 teens, they actually formulated that as a clustering audience for lookalike. And I was looking into how they actually did that and wanted to kind of see whether that could be transplanted into B2B, and out came Ocean of that. But it was a long walk to get to where we are, because first of all, came into the B2B world with a concept nobody realized was even possible. And we were definitely for quite a few years and a hammer looking for the nail. And then everything changed in 2022, and we didn't have to convince anyone of the merits of using natural language processing in understanding context of data. And since then, it's been a really interesting ride Ocean has been on.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And so 2022 was your turning point. How many years had you been in business prior to that? Well, what the come up looked like?
Almost 5 years where we basically trialed and error different algorithms and different versions of it. It was still in the early versions were very, very cumbersome to use, or it was not the same ease of use as it is today. You needed to, because translation of different languages is still a challenge, but then everything started to improve. But that's the price you pay when you're, leading, you know, leading edge of technology. We were on the very early Elasticsearch versions. That was the first version. I can't remember the version number, 7.32 or something like that. That could actually support vectoring. And so in those days, if you told people that, you know, we are vectoring landing pages, people would be looking at you with a blank stare. They had no idea what we were doing. We were so far ahead, and we did that out of Europe, and still most of the activity around this actually happened here in the Bay Area. Hence, why we are here today. I would say there's an advantage of being early movers. There's also disadvantage. You need patience because the market will catch up, but you are way ahead of the market.
Yeah, and patience sounds like it was a big
Uh,
element there. You guys rode
uh,
out the wave.
uh, uh,
But how has the kind of landscape shifted, especially in the B2B data space, we'll call it? How has it changed that it's made it a little easier to
I,
grow? What sort of new opportunities or even challenges have come up?
I think two basically waves changed the whole thing for the B2 go-to-market landscape. Two, automation, the need for automation. That the old the old ways of doing things, which was the old platforms really supporting, was that you have an army of SDRs throwing mud at the wall, see what stuck, and then they started to go after that. ICP was defined as very, very loose confederation of companies, not really precise based on what the company actually did. It was more like size or geography, things like that, and not really on how well your application actually fitted into the way the company operated. Where this is where the whole lookalike comes from, and so those kind of tendencies really helped Ocean put us in the forefront. And since we were early adopters and coined the whole lookalike concept into B2B, when people started to realize that that was the next big thing, they obviously look to Ocean, and hence us being the number one player in this market. There was a few that experimented with LLMs for doing this. We saw one of the big players actually releasing a version of this 3, 4 months ago, but it's still not as accurate. It gives you the first 2 or 3 results, which is good, but the rest is pretty mediocre, and then it dives off from there. So you can't really build scalable lookalike outreach models based on LLMs, because they're not really trained for that purpose, which our models are. And that's why we have commanded a dominant position in that space, and still have. There's always the copycat versions out there, but we don't take them serious. We are pretty much the only game in town when it comes to detail, quality, lookalike, and our brand is always been associated with that kind of quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. You guys have laid a great foundation. And whether it's the case or not, just being an entrepreneur, having that mindset of you're going to run your own race, the only true player in the space, I think that's a really good spot to be in, regardless.
Yeah, it's painful because nobody confirms it. Nobody really looks for your product early on. But I tell you what, today it's a very nice space to be in. A very nice place to be in for Ocean.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And Michael, you credited automation as being one of the big shifts in the landscape.
Mm.
Obviously, that nowadays in most conversations goes hand in hand with artificial intelligence, AI.
Yeah,
How is that kind of playing into the sales space as well, at least in
I
your
think I think the whole market is coming towards us. And let me try to explain. Uh, all databases out there is based on a foundation, the way you structure your data. We are the only foundation that is based on a normalized database. That means every single data element in an Ocean database fits into a normalized structure, and it becomes extremely easy to integrate us into any form of automation, because data element A is equal to data element A in the calling to our API. It becomes a little bit technical, but it's really where you see that the AISDRs, those AI automation, rely on non-normalized databases, and you'll see them go haywire because the data precision is not accurate enough. That means you're trying to build a automated process on a database that looks like a hodgepodge of Lego blocks that is not really assembled into a normalized structure. And that's what we see the first generation of AI automation tools did. Everyone built agents, everyone built AI SDRs, and they sent out a lot of things to a lot of people with less value. Let's put it that way. So they basically repeated the mud on the wall theorem. And what we see in the second generation is the more precision. A lot of our customers on the API side is using Ocean in order to get the precision in the outreach, get the precision in the automation, and that's where we see the whole market is shifting towards. And from a data science standpoint, it's we have a saying in data science is shit in, shit out. And the first versions of the AI SDRs were really, really shit out. They automated it, but it was, there was no perfection in it, and that's where Ocean is starting really to come into play. And people are starting to realize that you need that kind of data structure underneath an automation platform, because if you don't have it, you're automating, excuse my French, shit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. No, there's a ton in motion. Sounds like you've got a lot going on the technical
Uh,
side, but there's
uh,
also a lot in motion when it comes to consumer awareness, consumer
uh,
adoption as well, which
uh,
I'm not sure where we are on that curve yet, but it's definitely trending in the right direction.
It's happening. It's happening as we speak, and it's pretty much happening every month that we have this curve is increasing, and I see a lot of traditional systems is struggling for us. A lot of people knocking on our door from the traditional systems and saying, "Okay, we need you guys because we tried ourselves and it doesn't really work."
Mm-hmm. And do you think that's been a not necessarily a challenge for you, but for consumers, for prospects, clients, their understanding of it, how it all works, and then how do you go about educating them on that topic?
I think there's a lot of self-education going on right now. And I think the way we hear it is that there's a lot of companies out there with budgets for testing, and they basically test multiple systems and see what works. And I would advise people do that because we're still in the early versions of these things, and I think once we get to second, third generation, this is going to mature. What I define first generation is the current AI SDRs coming out, who has been out there for a year or 2 years now. The second generation version is where they go into very specific areas of added value. They don't do everything to everybody, but they do cover very specific parts of the sales funnel. And when we get to the third generation, we will have uh, the AI SDRs in a very broad definition, covering multiple layers of the sales funnel, from acquisition, pipeline generation, the engagement on inbound, the whole way down to contracts, proposal, quotations, and closing, everything. And you will see multiple application coming out and support that entire. And then you'll see, in my mind, you'll see traditional AEs uh, uh, being more orchestrators. They will be involved in these multiple layers of automation and engaging themselves in where they can really add value. So the impact on deals are going to be significantly higher, but the trivial parts of, and excuse my French, demos, or an AE being a demo or jockey is dying.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna die out. Or you can get an AE robot, autonomous AE robot, AI robot to do not AE robot,
Yeah.
AI robot to do that far better, because they're learning as they go, and they'll learn what the issues the prospect is focusing on. So that's going to get much better. But the AE interaction with the comp is all about the really finesse question of how we can make sure that the added value is there. So
Mm-hmm. For sure. And on that line of first generation, second generation, third generation of AI, where do you think we're at right now?
I think we're somewhere in between first and second. I think we see the first, second generation coming out. They've been out for most of this year, trying to gain ground. But there will be end of the year next year, you will see third generation, and a third generation is far more autonomous, far more acknowledging that you need a human being uh, orchestrating these things, interacting. The black box where you trust everything on the AI, I think it's maturing into an orchestration engagement. I think we believed, and this is always when we adapt to new technology, we believe it can do everything, and now there's a far more acknowledgement of advantages and limitations. And it's the limitations we need to compensate for as human beings.
Mm-hmm. No doubt, no doubt. It's kind of the metaphor I've used on the show a few times is AI is essentially a tool. If you can get
Mm,
really good at using that tool, same with any industry. If you're a carpenter, you get really good
yeah,
with certain tools in that space, then you're good to go. But if you don't know how to use
yeah,
the power tools, it's going to take
yeah.
you longer. So,
But if you're an AE in a very transactional, representing very transactional deal flow, um, I would start to look over my shoulder for the AI that's going to replace you, because that there's not much value in it, and it's very prone to be automated, because the customer is looking for very specific things, and AI can really help out on that and present that. And there's some really interesting solutions out for that. The more complex or high ACVs and more complex solutions, they will always have an AE component involved in it, and consultancy component involved in it. It's not going to go away,
mhm.
but AI can help you basically analyze things better, analyze a call better, and we see that from some of the new systems coming out, or deep analysis of a call, reflecting it back to understanding of what the customer actually said and what the issues actually are for that particular customer in that particular company. So I think all this is where, and Ocean is playing a role in all these things. So I'm very happy.
Yeah, no, exciting times ahead, scary times ahead. It's
Yeah.
hard to put a label on it depending on where you're
Is
sitting.
it scary? Yeah. Yeah, of course, we have to keep on our toes. There's a revolution going on, and who was it? Was it the CEO of Amazon that basically predicted that 50% of the white label jobs will be gone in 10 years? And I completely agree with it. I think but then is that going to be a bad or good thing? The pen pushers, is that a good position to be in, or the orchestration of very intelligent flows is probably a more challenging. So I think it's down to politics of how we deal with that, but that's not for me to go into.
Yeah, yeah. And without pulling the curtain back too much, Michael, how are you guys preparing for this AI shift over at Ocean currently?
Yeah, but we are rolling out every 3 months. We're rolling out. We just rolled out the whole vectoring of companies. We've done for a couple of years now. We vectoring basically your LinkedIn profile. The next thing you will see us is matching the vectoring of our job description with the ideal candidates, because we vectored them, and that matching and do that automatic. All these things are coming up. Then we have the whole clustering coming out. What we mean by clustering is that we do lookalikes inside a CRM system. And we have a couple of our API customers actually starting to engage with their customers on this. And that is the whole concept of, you have, let's say, 2000 close one, but how do they actually cluster up in ICP based on what the companies actually do? And that is an inverted algorithm that basically does that. So where all these things are being rolled out. Why? Because then the more precise you understand your ICP, the more precise you can engage with inbound traffic based on a more intelligent lead scoring. Today, lead scoring, if you look to traditional CRM lead scoring, is absolutely dumb. It's a non-intelligent, or really, really, there's no AI involved in it. We are building lead scoring based on AI, based on the actual ICP understanding, and actually dynamic maxing it up to for instance, inbound traffic. How do you engage with random inbound traffic if you haven't scored it intelligently? Because you will engage differently based on the score. And all of these things is what is coming out. Again, automation. You can't automate unless you really understand how these things are categorized. Can you
Mhm.
automate anything on a HubSpot or a lead score? I
Yeah,
hope not. I hope
yeah.
you're not doing that, because that will give you some painful experience there. So we're trying to move the bar on these things.
No doubt. And that's a powerful perspective. And Michael, you've
Mm,
had a unique entrepreneurial journey up to this point. Said it took a few years to get the company off the ground, and since
yeah.
2022. seen
uh,
some strong success.
uh,
So one of my favorite questions to ask founders, CEOs, as you've been building this company, if there was one lesson you wish you could have learned a little earlier in your career, what do you think that one lesson would be?
it's actually a stupid lesson, hindsight, but it's the real lesson. We built this out of Copenhagen, and we built it out of Europe, and Europe, by all respect, is years behind on the AI curve, years behind US. I only started coming to the US again. I used to live over here, but I only started, and that's why it's stupid. I only started to come back into the US a year and a half, 2 years ago, after the post 22. And I should have done it much earlier. That is the biggest mistake we did. We should have put our ears to the ground in the US, not in Europe. And one thing is have development and everything else sitting in Europe, that's fine. But having us engaging with the market should have been in the US. That's the biggest mistake we made. And the moment I came back into San Francisco and I talked about vectoring, everyone understood what vectoring was. If I sit with founders in Copenhagen, they have no clue what vectoring is. They never use that in their vocabulary. And that's the biggest difference between Europe, which I represent, and the market here. That's why I spend most of my time here in the US, because we learn so much from the early adopters of AI here in order for what the functionality they would like to see in their system and the pains they have in what they have rolled out, and that allow us to really stay on the forefront of the whole thing. Development is still back in Copenhagen. Peace be with that. But also understanding what the market is actually doing, it's here in the US.
Yeah, very cool. And follow-up question on that. What stopped you from doing it? Was it lack of knowledge of the US market? Was it fear of the
No,
risk?
I had that, and that's why it's a stupid situation. I had that knowledge. I knew that. I lived over here for several years, almost 10 years. And
Yeah.
it's like, why didn't I just, but it was like, the board or everything. I'm not going to blame anyone else. That was my mistake. I should have done it much earlier.
Yeah, very cool. No, I'm sure that, and sure, if we had more time, I'm sure there's a very cool
Mm,
story behind all that.
mm,
But maybe we'll
yeah,
have to have you on for another episode.
mm.
But Michael, looking forward now, what's the goals for Ocean this year? What's the vision? What's the mission you guys are on?
Yeah, we want to enable AI automation in B2B and supply chain. That is the mission we are on. We don't believe LLMs can do it on the broad, sophisticated processes that includes in go-to-market and supply chain and recruitment. We believe that there's a space for someone who has trained their model dedicated on those processes, and that's where Ocean wants to be the dominant player. And that's the objective we have. We are on the leading edge of these things. The use cases we are bringing out, the whole people lookalike is use cases. Everyone is sitting there in awe and say, how did they do that? And obviously we'll keep on pushing the envelope, pushing the bar as we go forward. The use cases we are dealing with right now and being rolled out over the next 3-4 months is mind-boggling. It's really mind-boggling what we can do once we start to train models on very specific processes and automating those. So our objective is be the number one in this entire space, and then let other build the application underneath it. On top of it, we just want to power it with AI.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys roll out because we've obviously
Mm,
built a very strong foundation.
mm,
So number
yeah,
one isn't too far away. I hope you guys can make it
yeah,
happen. If you guys
yeah.
haven't already. No, it's very cool.
Thank you.
But
Thanks, Oliver. Thanks
yeah,
for your very good questions. Yeah.
I appreciate it. And Michael, that's all I got for you today. So we can begin to wrap
Okay.
up now. But I'll be sure to
Okay.
tag your LinkedIn, Ocean website down in the description. But is
Yeah.
there anywhere else people can go check you out on?
They can actually, obviously, we did something on our landing page that nobody else has done. We basically we learned from OpenAI. We put the whole thing up on our landing page. Test out how you engage with Ocean. how your API will work with Ocean. That's everything is on the landing page. There's no barrier of entry. You can test it out right away, and within seconds you get a whoa, that's the way it works, and you can see the difference right away. And we did that very transparent. It's in our kind of mission. It's in our the way we engage with the market. Very transparent. We're not hiding things away behind a lot of barriers. Here's what it is, or it's transparent. You can test it out, and we will help and consult you on how it can fit into your application.
Yeah, awesome. I'll be sure to link that down in the description.
Mm-hmm.
And for everybody listening, thank you for taking the time to tune in. Michael, thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
Thanks,
It's been an
Oliver.
absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Oliver.